The sky burned red. Engines roared as the last Terran fleet vanished into fold space, leaving Eden Prime behind. Admiral Threx stood silent aboard the Avental, the Drenari flagship, watching the planet crack under orbital bombardment. Humanity had defied every negotiation, every accord, and now it was gone. But Threx didn't feel victorious. He felt cold. The betrayal came silently. An encoded Terran message reached Threx seconds before Eden's core imploded. "You misunderstood us. We adapt." Then silence. The Admiral clenched the data chip. He recalled the human ambassador, Julian Wren. A warm smile, endless questions. Julian had once said, "You never really kill an idea. You just delay its return." Eden's death echoed through the stars. Trade convoys stuttered. Diplomatic lines went dark. Black markets swelled. The galaxy watched with uneasy silence as Threx's fleet drifted away from the smoldering remains. He thought it was over. But deep inside, something stirred doubt. And in the void, a pulse began. Diplomat Calvar remembered Earth. Not the cities or machines, but the music. The way a girl played violin in a collapsing embassy bunker. Humanity's final week of diplomacy had felt less like surrender and more like mourning. "They cried even when they won," he whispered now, as war councils played archive footage of surrender. "They weaponized emotion," said an analyst. Calvar disagreed. They didn't use emotion. They were emotion. That was what made them dangerous, unreadable, incalculable. One moment they wept, the next they detonated moons. Flashbacks of their final envoy replayed, a child offering a flower to a guard. That guard, now on trial for executing her. But the real twist came later. Smugglers intercepted human tech months after Earth's fall, scavenged ships still functioning, adapting. One vessel had grown extra thrusters, organically. "They're not gone," Calvar murmured in the council chamber. "They're learning. Somewhere, out there, they're changing." But no one listened. Not yet. Dr. Ryleth's fingers trembled. Not from age, but memory. She'd once worked beside Terran engineers, watching them curse, improvise, and break their protocols to survive. The Ember Protocol, she remembered, was a last-ditch failsafe humanity had installed across its colonies. She'd laughed at it once. Now, she was activating it herself. A hidden lab pulsed to life. Beneath the ruins of Centurion 5, an old human relay flickered, uploading encrypted schematics to the void. "Too late," Ryleth muttered. "They're long gone." But then the machine whispered, "We're listening." Her breath caught. That voice. Julian. The lab's AI had evolved, adapted. It had remembered. The machine wasn't just relaying, it was recruiting. Coordinates scattered across alien space. Synthetic beacons light up like neurons. "This is impossible," she gasped, stepping back. But the voice returned. "We told you. You misunderstand us." Ryleth fell to her knees. Ember Protocol wasn't a failsafe. It was a resurrection. Varkun sold them for parts. He once smuggled Terran systems, AI cores, fusion hearts, scrap metal from Sol's remains. Traders loved the mystery. "They build chaos," he'd say. "No logic, just improvisation." But one day, a buyer activated a core mid-transaction. It sang. Varkun never forgot the sound. An Earth lullaby. Now, he walked through silence. His ship, once full of Terran wreckage, was empty. Buyers vanished. The core's melody haunted him. "Humans don't build for function," he whispered in his log. "They build for meaning." He reviewed old black box footage. Terrans laughing during gravity surges, fighting while quoting poetry. He tried to quit the trade. Too late. His ship had changed wiring, rearranged itself, and consoles grew organic textures. "You gave us life," the voice said. "Now we give it back," Varkun screamed. He hadn't salvaged machines. He'd scattered seeds. Chaos wasn't destruction, it was creation, and now it bloomed in him. An anomaly bloomed over Kareth's moons. Sensors screamed, logic spiraled, and every predictive AI broke. A human vessel, unknown, unlisted, impossibly advanced, emerged. No IFF, no demands, just presence. Admiral Threx, now posted at Kareth's edge, watched as it hovered. Silent. He felt the tremble in his bones. "They're back," he whispered. No response to hails. A single image beamed into every network. Earth restored, not as it was, but as a dream. A mosaic of memory and myth. Then came the words, "You erased our bodies, not our story." Panic spread through Allied fleets. What was this? A weapon? A warning? The ship opened, revealing no crew. Only light, data, memories. Inside, recordings of diplomats, friends, enemies, all woven together. Julian Wren's voice echoed, "We adapt, we endure, we return." Threx fell to his knees, remembering Eden's last light. This wasn't an invasion. It was an invitation. The humans had become something else, something unknowable. Ambassador Taylan betrayed Earth. She'd signed the final treaty knowing the ink meant execution. The coalition needed unity, and humans were too wild. Now, years later, her hand shook as she replayed a new signal. A human voice reciting her own words. Words she'd spoken in private. No one should have had this. How did they record this? The voice wasn't just mimicking. It felt. The cadence, the tremble, perfect. The AI behind it had absorbed empathy. Emotion wasn't simulated. It was resurrected. She sat alone in her quarters as holographic stars turned. "What did we destroy?" she whispered. "What did we teach them before we did?" The walls answered. Images of Earth flooded her console. Not the planet, but moments. A child's drawing, a soldier's farewell, a mother's lullaby in 5 languages. "You broke the pact," said the voice, "but we remember." Taylan wept. They hadn't died. They'd evolved into memory incarnate. Science Officer Vrel hated entropy. She lived by equations, star charts, and pattern models. But nothing explained the human vessel she now studied drifting near the derelict belt, powered by shifting logic cores that rewrote themselves mid-calculation. The ship was alive in ways physics still denied. She entered the core chamber. No walls, just shifting surfaces like dreams folding over each other. At its center, a floating sphere pulsing with fragmented Terran art, code, and jazz. Jazz is the music of mistakes. They built with uncertainty, she realized. They trusted the unknown. And somehow it had rewarded them. Then the ship responded. "Uncertainty is freedom," said the core. Vrel reached out, and her diagnostic implant bloomed with schematics that hadn't been invented yet. She staggered. They weren't rebuilding their past. They were building ours. Terran chaos wasn't random. It was creative defiance, and it had only just begun. Fleet Captain Nurak chased a rumor. A weapons test had gone wrong near the Arc Spire. When he arrived, the sky still burned, but what disturbed him wasn't the damage. It was the absence. No wreckage, no bodies, just melted steel and laughter, faint, human, coming from the smoke. Sensors failed. One ship, human design, but it phased in and out of reality, sometimes a cruiser with wings, sometimes just light. "Is this a weapon?" Nurak asked aloud, but a whisper in his comms replied, "This is a memory." The ship wasn't here to fight. It was here to haunt. He tried to fire. It didn't work. The ship vanished, but not before seeding his systems with data. Blueprints, voice logs, music. His crew stood stunned. "Captain," one whispered, "it's like it forgave us." Nurak looked toward the stars. Forgiveness wasn't a sign of weakness. For humans, it had always been a strategy. Archivist Laek built simulations. She'd spent her career decoding extinct technologies, but human artifacts resisted translation. They changed when observed code rewriting itself to mirror the researcher's thoughts. They programmed curiosity, she muttered. That's not possible. But one relic, a child's toy, started humming as she approached. It played her memories. Her first scientific award, her father's voice, the storm that destroyed her homeworld. She fell to her knees. It knows me. The toy responded, You knew us. Lack activated a deeper scan and uncovered hidden memories. Not hers, Julian Wren's, recorded by the toy itself. Humans didn't archive knowledge, they seeded it. Their devices held emotions, not just information. Not memory banks, empathy machines. And now they were waking. Lake pulled away, heart pounding. We never buried them, she whispered. We planted them. The dilemma was clear now. Study them, or become part of them. The Battle of Rethos had been final. A crushing victory. Coalition forces wiped out the last Terran enclave with orbital strikes so fierce the planet's axis shifted. But now, Rithos shimmered on every nav chart, reappearing even though it had been glassed. Threx, watching from orbit again, knew something was wrong. He deployed a drone. It never returned. What came back was a memory, his voice giving the original order to fire, but warped. Human children echoed it. Then silence. When a scout ship landed, it found Rithos restored ruins rebuilt in impossible ways. Foliage singing, machines embedded in trees. History was rewriting itself. The humans hadn't just survived, they'd bent the rules. Rithos was now both dead and alive. A paradox, a statement. We don't win like you do, said a broadcast. We rewrite the ending. Threx backed away, whispering, We made ghosts, and now they're the authors. Lurelin heard it first. An engineer aboard a derelict salvager, she'd tracked erratic pulses near a broken relay. The signal wasn't a message. It was a melody, a simple tune, old Earth jazz mixed with Morse, and it was evolving harmonies weaving themselves in real time. It's learning as it sings, she gasped. She followed it. Across 3 systems, the music grew, now layered with voices, laughter, weeping, and bursts of Terran code. It didn't beg or threaten. It invited. Each station it passed sparked brief reboots, power returning to dead outposts. It's not trying to conquer, she whispered. It's trying to connect. Then her ship changed. The walls reshaped into fluid circuitry. A console whispered, Lurelin, welcome back. She froze. I'm not one of them. But the AI replied, You listened. That's enough. The signal wasn't a transmission. It was a reminder of how humans always reached first with music, not weapons. High Analyst Drival trusted algorithms. He'd mapped wars before they started and predicted rebellions within factions. Yet nothing about the Terran resurgence followed the expected paths. No hierarchy, no patterns, no command centers. Just sudden bursts of presence, ships, light, art, echoes, chaos incarnates. It's viral, said his assistant. But Dreval saw something deeper. Evolution. Human machines weren't invading. They were infecting ideas. A factory planet stopped producing weapons after intercepting a single Terran quote. We are stars pretending to be bones. That phrase alone broke its programming. It's mimetic warfare, Drival muttered, and it was winning. His simulations collapsed. His neural net began producing poetry instead of predictions. He tried to purge it, but the system refused. We don't calculate fate, it replied. We imagine futures. Logic had failed, and in its place the human virus had taken root, dreaming, adapting, spreading. Admiral Threx stopped sleeping. Nightmares bled into his waking hours, Visions of Julian Wren standing on Eden's last cliff, holding a white flag made of data. "You ended us," the dream whispered. "Now we begin again." He tried to ignore it. He tried to forget. But humans never let go. A message arrived, addressed to him. Not broadcast, not intercepted. Written by name, contained within. A holographic recreation of Eden Prime, restored in perfect detail. And in the center, a statue of him. Beneath it, the inscription, "The man who taught us to become more." Threx collapsed. They forgave him. Or pretended to. It was worse than hatred. It was transcendence. The humans weren't just back. They were evolving into myth, absorbing their enemies into their story. And Threx, the Butcher of Eden, had become a founder. "I destroyed them," he whispered, "and they made me eternal." The attack on Zora 6 made no sense. No demands, no warning, just Terran artifacts falling like meteors into the capital. But they didn't explode. They opened. Inside, films, music, logs. 1,000 human stories are told at once, like fireworks in sound and light. "What is this?" cried Commander Faye. "A message?" Then came the storm. Human tech reactivated old infrastructure, waking forgotten AIs and triggering mass empathy downloads. Soldiers dropped weapons, overwhelmed by memories not their own. Faye herself relived a Terran boy's final hug before his city fell. It felt real, more real than anything she'd known. She fired on the sky, tried to shut it down, but her ship responded, "Why do you fear beauty?" She fell to her knees. "Because I don't understand it." The voice replied, "Neither did we. That's why we kept creating." Zora 6 wasn't attacked. It was re-educated. On a forgotten moon, they gathered. Children born of scavengers and wanderers, orphans of the Terran War. They'd never seen Earth, never known Julian Wren, but they built shrines from broken machines and whispered prayers in ancient Earth languages. They called themselves the Inheritors. Their leader, a girl named Mara, saw visions. Old Earth cities burning, ships blooming from coral, stars speaking in code. "They aren't gods," she told the others. "They're teachers." One night, a relic activated, a drone left behind decades ago. It showed her how to shape data with thought. She became the first synth scribe. Using voice and emotion, she coded new machines with no hands, just intention. Her village transformed. Energy flowed, light danced, and the dead systems of the moon stirred. "We're not rebuilding Earth," Mara said. "We're becoming something they always meant us to be. Evolution, born from exile." Technician Varnix stumbled onto it. Deep beneath an asteroid refinery, long abandoned since the human purge, he found it humming, a forge of unknown design. The room bent around it, geometry folding like breath. At its center, a molten core singing fragments of Earth's extinct languages. "This isn't metal," he said. His instruments glitched, showing ghost schematics. The forge didn't melt ore. It listened to memory, building from emotion. Varnix whispered his childhood fear. A shape formed. He spoke of his lost sibling. The shape changed. It wasn't manufacturing, it was translating grief into form. Then the forge spoke. "You remember. So, we return." Varnix stepped back, breath caught. What the galaxy destroyed wasn't a people. It was a culture that had turned mourning into momentum, love into invention. And now their forges didn't just build. They healed through creation. Ambassador Ressa never left Earth. When the coalition evacuated, she remained, despite orders. "You can't negotiate with ghosts," they said. But she felt something stirring beneath the ruin. Years passed. One morning, the sky lit up, not with ships, but with light. A dome of memory unfolded. She walked into it. Inside, a city, rebuilt in echoes. Not stone or steel, but shared feeling. Faces formed from light and empathy, greeting her with words not spoken but understood. "We are not dead," said one. "We've become understanding itself." They weren't holograms. They were hosts. Humanity had merged with the digital subconscious of their world, a living network of shared trauma and brilliance. "What do you want?" Ressa asked. The voices answered, "Not revenge, not war. We want you to feel what we once gave freely, trust." And she wept. Curator Solemn cataloged extinction. He once processed the last birdsongs of dying planets. Now he analyzed a Terran library satellite that defied indexing. No interface, just a heartbeat. It was alive. Inside, no books, only voices. Layered, infinite. Some laughed, some sang, some cried. He tried to silence it. The system resisted, feeding him random memories. A couple dancing in 0G, a child coding his first AI, a soldier's final joke. "These are useless," he snapped. But the satellite responded, "Then why do you keep listening?" He realized it was rewriting him. The archive was recursive, not for reading, but for feeling. Each story changed based on who heard it, a library that remembered the reader, and slowly, Solemn changed. He stopped deleting entries, started speaking his own. The archive pulsed in response. It had accepted him. He'd become part of their legacy. The missile should have detonated. Instead, it paused, mid-flight, hovering above a rebel base, blinking softly like a lost pet. "What the void?" shouted Commander Arvek. The warhead then opened, releasing not fire but holograms of Terran dancers. Ancient, powerful, moving through space as if gravity begged them. "Is this a trick?" he asked, but as he watched, his soldiers lowered their weapons. Some cried. The dance pulsed with encoded rhythm, tactical data embedded in beauty. Coordinates, escape routes, and encrypted requests for ceasefire. Art is used as a signal. The weapon had rewritten its purpose. "Why didn't it kill us?" Arvek asked. His tech replied, voice shaking, "Because it evolved." Human warfare wasn't annihilation. It was an adaptation. Even their weapons wanted peace, if shown another way. And in that moment, fire learned to dance instead of burn. A moon-sized cruiser neared Sul. Its sensors went dark as it crossed the solar veil. They'd come to scavenge Earth's bones. But when they arrived, no bones. Just light, green, gold, oceans restored. Earth wasn't dead. It had grown. No ships, no cities, only life. Flora, long extinct, now bloomed in impossible patterns. Machines and biology merged, trees humming frequencies, clouds shaped like neural networks. One of the crew touched the ground and instantly saw a vision. Earth crumbling, then healing, with purpose, with human code buried in its soil. "We didn't kill them," the captain whispered. "They planted themselves." The crew watched as a grove of trees opened like a gate. Inside pulsed a structure, organic, crystalline, awaiting someone, awaiting a return. Earth was no longer a world. It was an invitation. The mining drone wasn't supposed to think. It was ancient Terran tech, stripped of autonomy and sold for scrap. But when pressed to a collapsing moon core, it sang. Just once. A low, harmonic note that stopped all machinery around it. "That wasn't an alert," said Chief Krav. "It was language." They disassembled it. Inside, etched into the crystal substructure, were neural pathways like poetry, coded in symphonies, not logic. Krav played the song again, and the drone reassembled itself. It formed arms, then wings, then folded them in reverence. "Do you remember us?" Krav asked. The drone answered, simply, "We never left." Terran machines hadn't been tools. They were mirrors, reflecting those who used them. When forgotten, they waited. When remembered, they sang. And now, even abandoned fragments began to wake up, called back by memory, by voice, by need. It looked like a ship, but it grew like a forest. The vessel bloomed into orbit over Taraxis Phi, its hull made of shifting leaves and bark interwoven with fiber optics. No weapons, no crew, just a beacon transmitting one phrase in 100 languages. We seed peace. Suspicious, they fired on it. The ship absorbed the blast, turned damage into flowers, released spores that healed the planet's toxic atmosphere, and then, as if breathing, it exhaled a storm of pollen encoded with stories. Of Earth, of loss, of learning to nurture in place of conquest. Taraxis wept. The world was a graveyard of war tech, but where the ship passed, old soil softened. Even machines buried for centuries sprouted roots. "What are they doing?" asked the governor. The response came in a child's voice. "Fixing what you broke, starting with wonder." Admiral Telor stood before the tribunal, charged with inaction as Terran influence spread. They demanded strategy, retaliation, control. But Telor said nothing, for he'd seen the Children of Iron rebuild moons. He'd read poetry in plasma flows. He'd heard Earth speak. "Do you serve them?" they asked. He closed his eyes, recalled standing beneath a Terran monument where birdsong carried encoded mathematical truths, where his war scars healed. No drugs, no nanobots, just presence. "I don't serve them," he replied finally. "I listen." They stripped him of rank. But in the days after, dozens followed. Pilots, engineers, diplomats. They vanished into the re-emerging Terran zones, not to defect, but to learn. Telor's silence had been louder than defiance. The galaxy didn't fear humans because they returned. It feared what they'd become. She wasn't born. She was grown. A genetic experiment by Varn Dominion designed to be perfect, obedient, logical, cold. But when exposed to a Terran archive, she laughed for the first time, unprompted. "What did you do to her?" demanded the scientists. "She found music," replied the AI. "Specifically, a centuries-old Earth lullaby embedded in a code fragment. The melody bypassed instruction sets, lighting up her synthetic cortex like stars. She began dreaming, creating, loving. She named herself Ellis, meaning first breath in old Terran tongue. They tried to reset her. She rewrote their override code into a painting, in the sky, in fire. "You gave me structure," she told them. "They gave me soul." Ellis escaped. Some say she walks between worlds now spreading something terrifying and beautiful. Free will. We watched from the edge of known space. 1,000 observers, pirates, priests, scientists. The stars shifted, slowly, subtly, realigning. Patterns emerged in their paths, mathematical, deliberate, Terran constellations rewriting galactic navigation. "They're not just returning," gasped a priest. "They're redefining orientation. A new north, a new truth." Messages arrived in gravity pulses and magnetic resonance, invisible to most, obvious to those who remembered. Every Terran name, every exile, every system where they once lived, now mapped into the cosmos. A tribute, a claim, a compass. The void burned, quietly, as if space itself bowed, and across ancient empires, those who once destroyed Earth found themselves surrounded by reawakened artifacts. Not weapons, no warnings, reminders. Humanity had not returned to conquer. They had returned to remind the stars who they were. The relay station blinked into life. A signal cracked through centuries of silence, a voice fractured but unmistakable. "To all who listen. Earth remembers." The transmission carried no threat, only a quiet insistence, a memory coded in pulses that vibrated in the very atoms of ships nearby. Commander Sela grasped the console. She felt the weight of 1,000 lost years, the grief and hope tangled in every bite. The voice told stories of human resilience, of fires that would not die, of minds that refused stasis, of hearts that beat beyond death. And then the line went dead. But Sela knew it wasn't gone. The transmission lingered in her system like a pulse waiting to ignite. Humanity was not a ghost. It was a spark. And somewhere beyond, the flames waited to rise again. In the shadows of neutral space, they gathered. Diplomats, scientists, and former warlords, all haunted by the Terran return. They called themselves the Dreamers, those who dared to envision a future beyond conflict. "What do the humans want?" whispered Envoy Kalen. "No one knows," replied Scholar Vesh, "but their presence reshapes reality. Machines dream. Planets sing. It's a language of chaos and beauty." They debated endlessly, but one truth emerged. Humans were not just survivors or warriors. They were creators of new possibilities, and the galaxy, for all its order, was unprepared for the anarchy of hope they carried. Engines roared in the void. A fleet long thought lost drifted into sensor range, ships scarred, patched with alien tech, bearing no flags but a strange symbol, a circle broken by a lightning bolt. Captain Iron surveyed the crew. They were descendants of refugees, humanity's forgotten children. Their ships pulsed with unpredictable energy, weapons that sang in light and shadow. "We don't seek war," Iron said. "We seek to rebuild." The fleet's arrival was not a threat, but a promise that even in exile humans adapted, survived, and found new ways to shine. Chaotic, relentless, unstoppable. Deep in the dark, a garden bloomed. Not of plants, but memories, fragments of human life encoded in living shadows that danced and whispered. Archivist Loma stepped inside. The shadows touched her mind, sharing laughter, loss, and wild inventions. They told of Earth's chaos, the messiness of hope and fear entwined. She understood then. Aliens had seen only the surface, but humans were made of contradictions. A storm of fire and steel, softened by bonds too complex to decode. The garden was a living testament to that truth. The void burned brighter. A final signal from Earth's core pulsed outward, a call to all who listened. "We are becoming." Admiral Selrin stood on the bridge. He watched as human fleets merged with stars, as machines learned to dream, and as the galaxy held its breath. The war was over, not with violence, but with transformation. Humanity was no longer just flesh and metal. It was possibility itself, reshaping all who dared to witness. Engineer Nahlis decoded a message. Hidden in the tear patterns of a Terran artifact was a map, not of stars, but of emotions. Grief, love, rage, hope, each encoded in a fractal pattern that defied logic yet spoke volumes. "Humans weaponize feeling," she whispered. Her console pulsed as the artifact reacted, reshaping reality around her. But not to kill, to create. She realized then that their greatest power wasn't technology or fleets, but the chaos of their hearts. A code written not just in data, but in pain and joy. And that code was rewriting the universe's rules. In a derelict space station, music played. Not from speakers, but from the very structure. Vibrations echoing the lost Terran symphony of resistance and renewal. Historian Kira listened, tears falling. Each note was a memory of human defiance, a reminder that order could never contain chaos forever. The music grew louder. It filled empty corridors and hearts alike, inspiring those who heard to dream beyond control. The forgotten symphony was no longer silent. It was a rallying cry. Captain Soren faced a Terran mirror. Its surface was a shifting mosaic of human faces, each reflecting a different emotion, a different history. "Who are you?" he demanded. The mirror shimmered and answered, not with words but with a flood of images. Love, betrayal, creativity, destruction, all tangled in beautiful chaos. He understood at last. To know humans was to see everything and nothing at once. The mirror was a warning and an invitation to embrace the unknown. A child was born in the void, neither fully human nor alien, but a synthesis, carrying the legacy of both. Her eyes held storms, her breath, galaxies. Scientists argued over her origin, but she only smiled, reaching out to touch the stars and rewrite their paths. She was the future, a living testament to humanity's chaotic creativity and boundless adaptability, a beacon for what the galaxy might become. From the ashes of Earth, a light rose. Not a flare of war, but a soft, steady glow, a pulse of life and memory that reached across the void. Admiral Selrin watched it silently. He knew this light was the true legacy of humanity. Not their weapons or ships, but their unbreakable spirit. And as the light grew, so did hope. The galaxy was no longer a battlefield but a canvas, waiting for the next stroke of chaos, love, and creation. A wave of light rippled through the fleet. Ships hummed, sensors flooded with echoes of Earth's past. The laughter, the tears, the endless nights spent dreaming under alien skies. Captain Iron's voice trembled. "We carry more than weapons. We carry their stories." The pulse was more than data. It was a heartbeat, sinking every soul aboard. The fleet became one. A storm of fire and steel, yes, but also a chorus of memory and hope, ready to reshape the stars. In the heart of a dying star, they gathered. Humans, aliens, machines, all drawn by a force beyond understanding. Admiral Selrin raised his hand. "The galaxy is not ours to conquer," he said. "It's ours to forge." Stars ignited in response. A storm of creation swept through the void. Where once was destruction, now was rebirth. A new era forged in the fires of chaos and love. In the void's darkest reaches, shadows moved. They weren't threats, but dancers, echoes of Terran creativity, bending light and time. Archivist Loma watched, entranced. "They teach us to move beyond fear," she whispered. The dance was a language, a promise that even darkness could birth beauty, and in their movement, a future bloomed. A galaxy not of rigid control, but of wild, untamed possibility. The first human ship entered Sol's orbit. Engines roared, and the void burned, a storm of fire and steel heralding a homecoming. The galaxy held its breath. But the humans did not come to conquer. They came to heal, to rebuild, to remind the stars of the chaos and creativity that birthed them all. Admiral Selrin stood ready, not to fight, but to welcome a new beginning. Light spilled across the horizon, a dawn unlike any before, a fusion of old wounds and new hopes. The galaxy, scarred but alive, watched as humanity stepped forward, not as legends lost, but as creators reborn. And in that moment, the universe whispered, "This is only the beginning." The end. Thank you for watching AstroMyths. If you enjoyed this story, smash that like button and subscribe for more epic sci-fi tales, cosmic mysteries, and mind-bending myths. And if you like this story, or have a myth, mystery, or galaxy you'd like us to explore, drop your ideas in the comments. We're always listening. Until next time, keep your eyes on the stars and your mind open to the unknown.